Most people talk about leaving America, but you up and did it.
I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship with America. It's like the bad boyfriend that you keep coming back to. I worked in politics and journalism, and I've lost faith in politics.
I'm like a skeptic. I've been working on this stuff all my life. But when you go to Detroit, you're going to see people taking responsibility for their own lives using restorative practices, like revolution by conversation. If we can encourage people to replicate it, we can transform America. And I'm convinced you'll like it.
Listen, Detroit is a great city. I don't care what you've heard.
I didn't hear anything. A lot of the progress for Detroit gets measured economically, like how many jobs, even how many blighted homes are now boarded. How do you measure the success of Detroit?
When Detroit was at its best, people had jobs, they were able to care for their families, take care of their neighborhoods, support their schools. We've got to have that. But to the degree that we can foster healthy relationships among people, from children to people in authority, we can make this city an even better place. But you need to know that the city of Detroit had a massive depopulation, so it's been a crisis. But what I would say is that the people who have remained, we have embraced restorative justice.
So at every level, we are a restorative city. We're coming together to really create the kind of Detroit we want to see in leadership, our school system, neighborhood associations, the families in the neighborhood, and the kids. All have a sense that we can improve outcomes for ourselves.
Let's walk through a little bit of what we've seen this week, if I can remember. It's never a boring trip with you. Do you ever stop? You're always in a suit, just clean, pressed, ready to go.
I call it black man's casual.
This is wrong, Henry. Talk to me about Detroit. This is your home.
Absolutely.
And you've lived here for forever.
Yep.
And you worked for the first black mayor.
Absolutely.
And how old were you?
I was 13. I think I may still hold the record as the city's youngest Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and then served as Southeast Michigan Area Director for Prison Fellowship Ministries. And it was at our conference I met the sheriff from Genesee County in New York, and he described how using restorative justice, it was so ingrained into the culture of their community that he was renting jail space to neighboring counties. I became committed at that point.
When Henry McClinton introduced to me restorative practice, I caught on to it right away. I said, Henry, this is the answer to what I've been looking for. Now, the caveat was, you must have city support. You must have the mayor's support, because to make these kind of changes, it requires a whole landscape of those who are in politics, of the philanthropic community, to be engaged as partners in this work. So we submitted a proposal with the Skillman Foundation support. We wind up being funded by the Obama Foundation.
Around that time, something happened with your dad.
My dad he was beaten pretty severely. It was touch and go for him for a while. So when I came back, I asked him, heard about this thing called restorative justice. Would you be interested in going through something like that with these guys to come to some agreement on what might need to happen to make things right? And he said, yeah, if we could do that, he'd at least like to try. So we had the meeting. That started out with the boys admitting what they had done. And one of the young men, he was wearing scrubs so we could see his chest. And there were lacerations and like cigarette burns across his chest. And we learned that he had been telling other people that he wanted to beat up an old man. And we surmised he had probably been inappropriately touched. So when he was beating on my dad that night, it wasn't just my dad, but he was beating on, all the folks who had done stuff before. It was very cathartic for my dad to go through that process, but also for the offender. He said the judge was nothing compared to when I had to sit in front of your dad, all of you all, and admit what I did. And he said it was in that setting that I decided I didn't want to be who I've become. Restorative justice, it's the framework from which I try to live. I try not to make assumptions about people, which is hard to do. I try to give people the grace that I'd like for them to show in me.
Yeah.
We don't have a crime problem in our communities. We don't have a discipline problem in our schools. We have a relationship problem, and the crime and the discipline issues are symptomatic of that. Once you begin addressing the underlying problem, the symptoms begin to go away. It'll be a personal success for me when the sheriff of Wayne County can call Lenawee, Oakland, Macomb and say, hey, if you guys need some space, we can hook you up. We're not quite there yet, but we are so much further along the way. I tell people now, you know, never waste a crisis.